What's up, Grandstand Bettors? It's Matt from GrandstandBettors.com. We're here with 2 goals, 1 puck on Tuesday, November 15th, and we're going to welcome in Fish. Fish, what's going on, buddy? Welcome back.
Much, man. Getting pretty excited for World Cup coming around the corner.
World Cup is just a week away, and yeah, we're going to do some live streams for that on our YouTube channel. Looking forward to that. It has been a couple of weeks since we've been live with our sports show. We since then, Clemson got dismantled by our Notre Dame Fighting Irish. That was awesome to watch. But there's been a lot of other news going on around sports, including what happened this weekend. So, hey, let's get into it. It's time for our weekend review. All right, let's kick this show off and take a look back at the top headlines of the weekend in review. So, Fish, what caught your eye over the past weekend?
I mean, it caught everyone's eye, but that Vikings-Bills game on Fox in the early slate was incredible. It reminded me of that Rams-Chiefs game a couple of years ago. You know, that everyone wanted to be the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it turned out to be that low-scoring affair between the Rams and Patriots. But in this game, we had 63 combined points, 3 lead changes in the last 41 seconds, over like 900 offensive yards. It was incredible watching, some of those catches by Diggs and Jefferson. In all honesty, I can't remember if that or it was the Eagles that we have in our preview for the Super Bowl, but that looks like it could be a viable Super Bowl preview there. Although the Chiefs are definitely going to give the Bills a run for their money, but yeah, it was a fun game to watch. I think that was certainly a highlight as the Vikings made a statement, and now I think might be first in the NFC with that Eagles loss last night.
Yeah, in all honesty, it was a great game. I enjoyed watching parts of it as we were live streaming the Browns during the same time. But I'll be honest, I think I'm on the fence. I'm on the other side of the fence than everybody else. I wasn't actually that impressed. Listen, Josh Allen threw a couple interceptions there. That's what made the game. I mean, if he doesn't throw those interceptions, is it even a game? So I think
4 turnovers. The Bills.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, was it really that great of a game? I think that Chiefs-Bills playoff game was way better than that game. And then you get Van Jefferson making the catch, whatever. Catches are made that are awesome every single week, and then you forget about it. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago or last week against Navy, Notre Dame had a massive catch for a touchdown, one-handed behind the back. Nobody's talking about it here 5-6 days later. So it gets lost in translation. I'm on the other side of the fence. I don't think it was that great of a game. What else did you look at, though? What else you got?
Just coming back from last night, the Eagles really are starting to remind me of that Steelers team in 2020 that started the year 11-0. And ironically, it was the Commanders, too, that ended that perfect streak. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this team rebounds from that first loss of the season for them. And yeah, in all honesty, that run defense, like we mentioned in our preview for that game, is a big weakness on this team. I think they let the Commanders put up 150 yards on the ground on them, and just every team, that's where they've had the success. And you're not going to get deep in the playoffs or really, anywhere without stopping the run in those games. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do in their next game after that loss.
Yeah, they really exposed the rush defense there a little bit. And, I said this during our live stream last night on Monday Night Football. I said, the Eagles, I think they should lose a game. A lot of people are wondering, would they lose a game? They have such an easy schedule. But when you play that easy of a schedule, I think you want to lose a game there. And you definitely, going into the playoffs, it's going to make you a little bit stronger. Listen, one of the things I took away from this weekend, one of the biggest things I took away this week, number 4 TCU beating number 18 Texas 17-10, and they did it with a strong defensive performance. Ewers only completed 17 of 19 passes for 171 yards and threw an interception, and has not looked really great for Texas since that beatdown they put up against Oklahoma. Now, a lot of people, including us, to be honest, really wondered if TCU's defense was going to allow them to make a run at the playoffs and championship this season with the performance they put up the past weekend over Texas. I think that has really silenced critics and myself. Only allowing Robinson to have 29 yards after he went for 600 yards over the past 4 games coming into this matchup this weekend. That is unreal. And listen, we're going to talk about our college football rankings here shortly, but this win was definitely a statement win. And if they are not in the top 4, if they win out and they're not in the top 4, I think the committee is honestly going to be criticized again this year. What a surprise that's going to be. But what do you think about TCU Texas?
Yeah, I mean, that was my exact impression. They only give up a field goal. The 7 points came from a defensive touchdown. So the fact they gave up only 3 points to a Texas offense, I think that was averaging like 35 points per game, was just astounding to me to see how they've progressed, especially. I mean, it started late in that Texas Tech game when they were down going into the second half, I think, and they just turned things around that second half. I don't know what it was, but they forced 2 turnovers on downs, an interception. Ever since that halftime when they had that close game with Texas Tech, their defense has looked very good and definitely a top 5 team in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have anything else for this weekend that you were looking at?
The one I think it's a mild take because I think everyone's on board with it now, but I think the Cardinals defeating the Rams eliminated them from the playoffs this early.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on how bad the Rams have been.
That's true.
That was a little disappointing. But to be fair, I mean, Stafford wasn't playing; it was Woodford, and Colt McCoy. He's played in his career as a backup, when he was with the Colts and with the Cardinals. So I got one more thing to get to for this weekend, and honestly, that is the Cleveland Browns. And it seems like for the immediate future, this is going to be a talking point each week on the show until they show some sort of improvement. Also, we don't want to sound like a broken record here, but really, how hard is it for Kevin Stefanski to call a rushing play? I mean, we said this 2 weeks ago. Every time Chubb has carried 20-plus times in a game this year, the Browns have won a football game. Again, this week, he only gets 11 carries, and we got destroyed by the Dolphins, 39-17. This isn't just about Nick Chubb's ability to run the football, although on those 11 carries, he averaged 5.7 yards per attempt. But it's also the fact that when you rush the football, as we saw last night with the Commanders, you don't allow the other team's offense to stay on the field. To give the Dolphins, Tua, Hill, Waddle, all those guys, 33-plus minutes on offense, it's not going to be a winning formula for you over time. Now, I know JOK was out this past week, but still. Also, the rush defense looked awful. Jeff Wilson, 119 yards and averaged 7 yards per catch. With our defensive line, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just adding to that how horrible that was. When I saw that stat at the end of the game, I mean, I knew he was racking up the yards there, but the fact that he finished with 119, that's horrible.
It was bad. And our defensive line is not getting any pressure on quarterbacks. Tua only sacked once, and they allowed him to go to 8 different wide receivers with an 80%, basically 78% completion rate in that game for 3 touchdowns. Listen, the season is over for the Browns. I don't want to hear one person in Cleveland, outside of Cleveland, wherever you are, say that when Watson comes back, he's going to run the table and we're going to the playoffs. I hate to break it to you, Browns fans, but we're 3-6, and we have the Bills and Josh Allen and Brady and the Bucks in the next 2 weeks. This team's got me so frustrated. Fish, you have anything else you want to add to the Browns before I got to calm down here for a second. I can't stand them.
It's bad. Yeah, I'm only a few years past the legal drinking age, but I've quickly found that you cannot be sober and watch Browns games.
You can't do it, Fish. You can't do it. Real quick before we get to our next segment, Viking says Maple Leafs or Pens in this matchup. You like the under 6.5? Got to be honest, Vikings stayed away from that game tonight. We will have an NHL pick coming up in our pick segment. But listen, let's not talk about any more of the dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Browns. Let's get to some real NFL talk and discuss some Thursday night football. It's time to debate which team's going to win this Thursday night in our home and away segment. All right, this segment of the show is going to pit Fish and I on opposite sides of the table, and we're going to debate which team will win on Thursday night football. And let's look at the standings before we get started here. I have a 2-1 lead over you, but I did lose last week. I did lose after the Ravens narrowly defeated the Bucs a couple weeks ago. This week, we're looking at a matchup. Should be maybe a good one. You just never know with Thursday night football. Tennessee Titans, Green Bay Packers. Fish, who are you taking this week?
Yeah, it was tough, but I'm going to be back in the Titans in this one. And what it really comes down to for me, I think it's just that Green Bay Packers run defense has just been atrocious this year. They're giving up 140 yards per game, which is 26th in the league. And when you're going up against Derrick Henry, that is not ideal. When Henry rushes for over 100 yards in the game, the Titans are 29-4 in that span. So definitely something the Browns should watch, given that record of when they give their star running back the ball. But the fact that the Packers gave up 115 yards on the ground to Tony Pollard last week in a game they really should have lost, but props to them for coming back and winning that game. I think the Titans are just going to run the ball, pull a Belichick, against the Bills last year. They don't even have to throw the ball, honestly, which why would you against, the best secondary in the league? So I think they're going to run it down their throats, be a low-scoring game, 19-17. I got the Titans winning this one.
All right. Well, there's no way the Titans beat the Packers this Thursday. That's an absolute ridiculous statement, Fish.
It's in Lombardi. It's tough, but
there's one reason why. It's one word. I can sum it up in one word. Aaron, really. Aaron. And no, that's not for Aaron Rodgers. That's for Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones coming off a huge performance, 138 yards on the ground on 24 carries against the Cowboys. And unlike the Browns, the Packers finally realized that if they give Jones more of the ball, that they're going to win some football games. Packers are on the outside looking in right now, that playoff picture. And luckily in this game, they are at home on Thursday night football because, to be honest, they have not been good on the road. They're 1-4 on the road. So thank God they're at home here. Green Bay at the moment, they have a top 10 defense, only around allowing 320 yards per game. Their secondary, third best in the NFL. A lot of people probably don't know that. Now, the Green Bay Packers, as you mentioned, have a terrible defense. The good news is, though, Tannehill is back at quarterback for the Titans. So the only person they're going to have to stop is Derrick Henry.
They're not going to be able to.
They're going to stop him. Listen.
They haven't stopped anybody this year.
No.
They haven't stopped anyone.
Listen, if you dive in, I'm glad you said that. Have they stopped people or haven't they? Well, if you dive into the Green Bay Packers rush defense, they have actually struggled with teams that have depth at running back. The Titans don't have that. Henry has rushed for 900 of the 1,200 yards that the Titans have on the ground. And if they can bottle up Henry, then it's going to be a very long night for the Titans. If you actually look back at their schedule, they've only allowed, I think, 3 people to have over 100 yards. Now, they give up 140 on the ground per game, but it's because those teams with depth have been able to bring in fresh legs in drives and get that yardage. I'm telling you, if they only go to Henry, they're going to bottle him up. Now, as we mentioned, Aaron Jones getting involved, beneficial to the success for the Packers team here. But the Titans' rushing defense is second best in the NFL, only giving up 85 yards per game. So, listen, they're going to have to pass the ball. But guess what? Fish? The good news is the Titans are the second worst passing defense in the league, and that's where Aaron Rodgers is going to thrive in this one. Now, we know Aaron Rodgers is listed as questionable. He was a non-participant on Mondays, but he's been that most of the season, to be honest with you. We're going to assume he is going to start this Thursday, but it is going to be without Dobbs, and Lazard and Watson are banged up, so hopefully they go as well. With Aaron Rodgers and this team getting that big win against the Cowboys in that fashion, a comeback win. We think playing at home, crowd behind him, Rodgers, who's coming off a very efficient performance, the best one of the season, is going to get the job done, pull out a victory, and they're going to be within striking distance of the playoffs at 5-6.
I've got 3 stats for you here. So first of all, the Titans defense, as you mentioned, their run defense is second best in the league. They also have 13 takeaways. So although they do give up a lot of yardage, they do get a lot of interceptions and get some takeaways there. They also have 29 sacks, which the Packers' offensive line has not been as good as it has been this year. Rodgers does not have time. He can't find his receivers downfield, which could be a problem. And the Titans have not allowed more than 20 points in any game since week 3 this year. I think you're underestimating their defense a little bit in this one. They're going to get the job done late.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know. I think I have the better record this season, 2-1. Just saying, destroying you. Listen, if you do want to see our best bet for this game, make sure you hit the subscribe button to our channel. Smash that like button. Every Thursday, we give out a pick for free on our YouTube channel for Thursday Night Football. Listen, it's been enough of the pros. Let's stop talking the pros. Let's talk a little college football tonight, as in just less than an hour, college football, our rankings are coming out, and I think it's time to give our own rankings. All right, listen. So, Fish, we're gonna go through our scorecard here of our top 6 rankings. We'll start with you. Give us from 6 to 1. What are you going with in college football? What do you think it's going to be tonight?
Number 6. I'm going on a little limb here, but I'm taking the USC Trojans to jump up to 6. I think they're the best team in the Pac-12 right now. Their offense has been very good, putting up 42 points per game. They have a tough remaining schedule, though, against UCLA this week and then Notre Dame coming up in their last one before the Pac-12 championship. So I think that, but if they win those games, that's going to pad their schedule a lot, for getting into the college football playoffs, if that's a situation with their one loss. But I think they definitely are the best team in the Pac-12 and have kind of earned this number 6 spot with where they're at right now. Number 5, I'm going with the Tennessee Vols. They've got that one loss to Georgia, but they put up 66 points last week, came right back, just showed how effective that offense is. You can't put them any lower than that with their only loss coming against the number 1 team, in my opinion. Number 4, I think you're going to disagree with this one too, but I'm only holding Michigan at number 4. The one game that concerned me with them was against Maryland. They gave up a lot of yardage in that game to a very bad team. And the reason for this, I think, is because the Terps have a dual threat quarterback in Tua's younger brother. Ohio State and TCU both have those kinds of quarterbacks, J.C. Stroud, and Max Duggan. And I if they played head to head in those 2 games, I see the Buckeyes and Horned Frogs taking it to them just because of that inability. The Wolverines defense had to stop the Maryland offense with a dual threat quarterback like that. Which number 3, we're going with the rest of the undefeated teams here. We got TCU at 3. We talked about them before, but their offense just is very, very good, and their defense seems to have turned a corner. So I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be at 3, although I could see the committee switching in with Michigan there. And then at number 2, the Ohio State Buckeyes. I did waver a little bit with them after that game against Northwestern 2 weeks ago, but then they absolutely destroyed Indiana last week, and that was even without Travion Henderson playing and some other guys banged up throughout the game. So, I mean, Stroud's the Heisman favorite for a reason, and that's why I had them at 2. I think he's going to carry them through the rest of the season. And then, which brings us to number 1, the no-brainer, which is the Georgia Bulldogs. Enough said.
Yeah. Listen, we actually agree on a couple, and let's just get to my rankings. And quite honestly, if you're in the chat, give us your rankings. We'll grade your rankings here at the end of this live stream. But listen, I'm going to tell you right now, number 6 is LSU, and I know what you're thinking. Listen, I know it's skeptical. You're putting a 2-loss team that high up there, but the 2 losses they've had against number 20 FSU, which at the time looked like a bad loss, but now it actually looks like a pretty good loss, especially with the fact that their second loss was only against number 5 Tennessee. LSU also most likely will have to play Georgia in the SEC championship game. So I have no problem putting this team here at the moment at number 6 ahead of USC, who has had the weaker schedule up until this point. USC has not really played anybody, and I think that's why you should favor LSU there in the 6th spot. At number 5, listen, at number 5, we're gonna have I think I messed this up. Anyways, I think I didn't put a 5 team. At number 4, I think number 5 I put TCU. Yeah, number 5 is TCU, but I didn't put them. So just anyways, USC number 6. I'm sorry, LSU number 6, TCU number 5. But one thing I did agree with you on is the Wolverines at number 4. And I know actually I was going to say it might be controversial, but if you agree, then hey, who knows? But who have they played? They've only played Penn State. They've played cake teams all year. And listen, I'm sorry, an undefeated Michigan team is lower than a 1-loss Tennessee team. And I know you put Tennessee 5, if I'm correct. You put Tennessee at 5?
Yeah.
You got them way too low. Also, if this committee was smart, they would realize the situation here will work itself out as Michigan's going to play Ohio State in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you put Michigan at number 4 and they win against the Buckeyes, then they're in. If they lose, then they're out. But if you put them too high here in this, then the discussion is that if maybe a close loss to Ohio State justifies them to only drop down to number 4, possibly leaving out TCU, LSU, or USC. But at the end of the day, Michigan has absolutely played no one. Because if you really look at it, the number 11 Penn State Nittany Lions, the fact that they're number 11 in the first place is a joke. Look at their schedule. They haven't played anybody.
Yeah.
Now, you know who has played some good teams, and I know we differ on this one. Tennessee, and we're going to put them in the 3rd spot this week. They're 9-1 with their only loss coming to Georgia. They have to be ahead of LSU, obviously, because of their head-to-head win at 40-13 early in the season and the great win over Alabama. They should be as high ranked as this because they only lost to Georgia. I mean, that's the argument there. Why would they drop any further than an undefeated TCU team? Okay. So listen, now there's no way that they can be in the SEC championship game to pad their resumes. So again, the committee needs to look at this because if you put this team, Tennessee, at number 4, and they finish the season 11-1, which they probably will, with their only loss to Georgia, how is it that LSU, TCU, and USC should be above that team? There's no way. But if you put them at 4, then you're probably going to knock them out. 2-1, we agree with. Obviously, Ohio State at number 2. They haven't had a hard schedule either, but like Michigan, they did beat Penn State, and they beat Notre Dame, which, as the weeks go on, is just looking like a better win each week. They're just so dominant on offense, Ohio State. 8 of 10 games this season, they've scored 44 or more points. Ohio State, Michigan, that is going to be the game of the year until the next week with the SEC championship that's being played. Georgia, number 1, obviously not much to dive into. Week 1, they destroyed Oregon. Oregon lost last week to Washington, so, I mean, that doesn't look as good. But, hey, the Pac-12's always never good at the end of the season. They handled Tennessee easily, and the defense is the name of the game for Georgia. Half the season, they've held their teams to 10 points or less, having only allowed, ironically, 20 points or more to Kent State and Missouri. A matchup with LSU in the title game, win or loss. This team, again, going to be in the playoff pending any hiccup with Kentucky and Georgia Tech.
What do you think the committee does if Georgia loses to LSU in that SEC championship game?
LSU can't play Georgia. You mean in the SEC championship game? Yeah. If LSU loses to Georgia, then LSU's not going to be in.
No. If Georgia loses to LSU.
Georgia will be in 100%.
So then
Georgia will be in the playoff if they lose to LSU in the SEC championship game. And if LSU beats Georgia and the committee does not put Georgia in the playoff, then We
I'm
should
talking
all
more
boycott
though.
college football.
I'm talking more though. What do you do then with a one-loss Tennessee team to Georgia versus a two-loss LSU
Well,
team?
no, you got to jump LSU,
You
or you
think
got to
so?
jump Tennessee there. LSU would go ahead of Tennessee because head up, Georgia, beat Tennessee and LSU would have beat them, and I know Tennessee would have beat LSU, but it's what their third. Well, that's two loss. I don't know.
But
It's a great question.
yeah, I think in that scenario, I think you're right. LSU would go to 4, then 2 would be a winner of Ohio
Yeah.
State, Michigan, and then if TCU wins
Yeah.
out, they'd jump in at 3.
Listen, Emmanuel says TCU's a one-hit wonder team this year. That's all. I mean, they've been good for a little bit, but
Yeah,
I mean, I will say this: the Big 12 is going out of. They're having out of business sale. Pac-12 always has a going out of business sale. These two teams, they're not great. They're just not great. I mean, there's Ohio State, there's Georgia. Clemson is down this year a little bit, but those two teams, Ohio State, Georgia, they're far better than anybody else. And I hate Ohio State with a passion. But if it's not Georgia, Ohio State in the championship game this year, I think as a fan of college football, we're not getting the best game.
yeah.
So, all right, listen, that is going to do it for us in our rankings. We're going to see that come out in about 45 minutes. Let us know what your college football rankings are in the comment. Do we have them right? What should be changed out? We'll circle back at the end of the show, see what your rankings are. Before we do get to our picks of the day, though, we are going to get to our segment where we look at the hot, cold, and dependable teams to bet on in our new segment, Start, Sit, and Bench. So this segment with these teams, we're going to look at each one, and we're going to tell you which one's hot, which one's cold, and which one's downright awful to bet at the moment. So, Fish, what's your hot team? What's on your betting card for sure this week?
Yeah, I'm starting the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, it seems like a pretty no-brainer, but for the spread, they're 9-3 against the spread this season, and then they're also 10-3 straight up. I mean, Giannis is unstoppable once again. They're ranked number 1 with the highest defensive efficiency in the NBA, and they're just going to keep winning games this year. And I think covering the spread until they get up to double-digit spreads. If they're at home against some worse teams, so. I think they're easy money right now. They have been for me for the beginning of the season, and I think they're the team that I'm putting in there every day that they're playing so far.
Yeah, listen, I agree. Bucks look good. I am going to look at the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are hot, and I know what you're asking. Like, wait, what? They suck. Well, it's true. This team has been the best record on the over in all the NFL, with it hitting last week fairly easy. This week, they're going up against a Bills team who is top 10 defensively, only giving up around 17 points per game. But Cleveland, second worst in scoring defense in the NFL. They've given up 30 points in 4 of their last 5 games. The total has opened at 43.5 points. And if you're telling me that the Browns only need 14 points in this game, something they have accomplished every single game this season, it's an easy bet this week. Get it now. Browns, Bills, over 43.5 points. So that's our hot teams, but there's been some dependable ones over the course of a season. What's dependable for you right now? Which one are you going to sit, but you're going to bring off the bench when you need to get a win?
Yeah, I'm going with it's kind of a twist here. I'm going with the Miami Heat. I have them, on the bench right now. They're only sitting at 500 after their win last night against the Suns. The usual 3 have been playing well, in Butler, Hero, and Adebayo. But besides that, their team hasn't looked that good. They still have Lowry in there, but I think they're kind of unpredictable right now, which is why I have them sitting on the bench. But a couple weeks down the road, with still that 500 lingering, they might be some underdogs in some games that they should not be. And I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out on that to jump on those as the season goes on, because it's still a good team and they still have a very good defense as we've seen the past couple of years.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know, Fish is our NBA guru. So anything NBA, listen to that guy. I'm going to look at NHL. That's my sport. Boston Bruins right now, they're very dependable, and they're dependable at home. They're 9-0 to start the year on home ice this season, and they are scoring 3.89 goals per game and killing off 90% of their penalty kills at home right now. They're going to play the Philadelphia Flyers. That one's tomorrow night. And although the lines are not quite out for this matchup, we do expect the Bruins to be probably heavy favorites here, minus 200 or more. But the Bruins are also 7-2 at covering at home against the spread. So look for the Bruins tomorrow night. If you can get a good price on the puck line, we'll wait and see what it comes out at. But if you can get anything at plus 100 or more, Bruins on the puck line, it's going to have some value there. Those are some hot and dependable teams, Fish. But what team are you benching? What team's not going on your card right now?
I'm going over to the NFL with this one and going with the Denver Broncos. They have the fourth hardest remaining schedule in the NFL, and through the easier part of their schedule, they only went 3-6. I mean, their offense is just it looks horrible. In all honesty, they had the weapons there to do stuff, but they just have not performed. Their defense is really holding them. The only thing holding them together. And that's not something I'm going to bet on. Just a team, this defense to help them win games. So I'm cutting the Denver Broncos for the remainder of the year unless I see something drastic change with them.
Yeah, the Broncos, I don't know. It's just been a scary team. Those first 6-7 weeks of the season, I think, ruined it for sports bettors. But I also think maybe you can find an edge later in the year. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what the games, what the lines come out at. Personally, I'm going to go to college basketball for my team that I'm not betting. And listen, I don't bet teams that I root for. With that said, I'm going to still bench the Notre Dame Fighting Irish basketball team at the moment. They're 0-2 against the spread in the early season. They were 19.5-point favorites against Radford. They won by 3. They were 10.5-point favorites against Youngstown State and failed to cover that as well. This week, they play the first game of the Gotham Classic, and they face Southern Indiana. And that spread has not been released yet, but it's likely going to be over 25 points at least. And their defense at the moment is not stopping anyone. They're giving up 78.5 points per game. We advise you to stay away from the Irish, especially against some of these smaller schools here. And I know you're a Notre Dame fan, Fish. And hey, 2-0 to start the year is good, but a little concerning with how close some of those games have been.
Yeah, I was flabbergasted when I was just looking at the box score for that first game against Radford, and I think they were losing late in that game too.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, but and then I watched a bit of the Youngstown State game, and I couldn't believe how easily they let a team like Youngstown State score on them, which you mentioned there is they got to figure out something. But I mean, they do have the playmakers definitely on the offensive side. That's why they're 2-0 still, and they won those games. So we'll see how it plays out in the season.
Little lucky. They were down 9 to Radford with about 7 minutes left, something like that. They pulled that one out of their butt, and they got the defensive stops when they needed to. So as the season progresses, we'll actually see if maybe that wasn't just laziness or if it was, them actually having defensive problems. But we're going to keep them off our card right now. So those are some trending teams and some leans for this week. But listen, it is time to get to our picks for tonight and this weekend. So let's light the lamp. All right, it's time to light the lamp, and we have bets for tonight, so let's get straight into it, Fish. What do you have in the NBA tonight?
I'm going with the Utah Jazz at home to cover the spread against the Knicks. This Knicks team's just been up and down all season. I really have no faith in them to cover this one, flying all the way to the West Coast to take on Utah, who's really surprised a lot of people, I think, this year. After just dumping ship, but they have a lot of depth. In my mind, they have some quick guards there that get the job done, push the ball at the floor. I think they're going to win this one pretty easily at home and cover that spread against the Knicks.
Awesome. We got some people on our TikTok chat saying they like the Knicks, but hey, we'll see who wins it. It should be a good game tonight. Listen, I'm going to look at the NHL tonight. We're actually coming off a nice 2-0 night in the NHL. Last night, Islanders, they won outright on the money line. We had them. Kings Flames scored 11 goals to cruise over that total. In fact, we had over 6, and they scored 6 right there in the first period. Tonight, we're going to look at a fun one. Dallas Stars taking on Tampa Bay Lightning. We locked in this bet on FanDuel at 2 p.m. this afternoon after Elliott was confirmed in goal for Tampa Bay. Dallas is 9-5-1 on the season, and they have been good on the road, 5-3-1. They're top 10 on the NHL on the road with their power play unit and their PK unit. They also have a very solid defensive team that only gives up around 30 shots on goal per game. Now, the Lightning, they're prone to taking penalties, and here on the early season, if you give Joe Pav, Jamie Benn, Robertson, Hintz, and Heiskanen time on that power play with a backup goalie, it's going to be troublesome tonight. So we're going to back the Stars tonight. We got them on the road on the money line at +106. Fish, there's a big weekend of football coming up. What do you got in the you got any football plays, NFL or college football?
Yeah, I was looking at the college football today. I was just kind of scrolling through everything, and one caught my eye, which I can't believe still. LSU is only a 14.5-point favorite at home against UAB. I mean, UAB is 5-5 in a Conference USA team traveling to LSU. I know UAB does. They play some solid football down there. So I've watched some games. One of my buddies is a pretty big UAB fan, actually. But that's an outrageous line to me, I think, especially like it's a slap in the face for LSU that it's only 14.5 on their home turf in that one. So I'm backing the Tigers to cover the spread in that game. I think it's let me check, but 9 p.m. So pretty late game there, but they should win that one easily.
All right, I like it. It might be like the same spot Navy was in. I mean, where I was a little surprised on the cover there. In fact, Notre Dame should have destroyed them. I don't know what they were doing in the second half, but we won't go down that road. This week or tonight, I'm also looking at some college basketball. Listen, we've had a great start to the season in college basketball. 18-10, up 5 units. Although very disappointing push last night with Penn State -6. Don't even get me started on how that game ended. Tonight, though, I'm looking at a matchup between SMU and New Mexico. This game opened up with SMU -3.5. It got bet down to 2.5. New Mexico started the season 2-0 and offensively has been very efficient, putting up 85 points per game with great guard play from Mashburn Jr. and House leading the way. SMU, though, has a good guard themselves in Phelps, who has SMU at a 1-1 record early on this season. That one loss was the number 24 Dayton, but they did hang tough with Dayton. It was only a 1-point game with actually 2.5 minutes left to play. SMU is in a little bit of a rebuilding season, but their defense efficiency is just a little bit better than New Mexico, and they show that against Dayton, holding them to 41% shooting from the field. I know money's coming on New Mexico tonight, but I like the Mustangs in this spot. We got them at 2.5, but if you're patient, hey, who knows? Maybe you can get them lower here. That game tips off at 8:30. Fish, did you have anything else, or was that it?
That's all for me right now.
Sounds good. Listen, if you are looking for our free picks each and every day, check out our YouTube channel. Or if you want our plays off of our member card, head on over to grandstandbettors.com. Or you can join our Patreon, where you can get 1 or 2 picks for only 25 cents a day. Real quick, I did want to circle back. We have a couple comments here. I wanted to look at Carl. Carl put up that his 5 are Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, TCU, and Michigan. That looks pretty similar to what I had. The only thing that I had different was, who does he have?
Michigan and TCU.
He's got Michigan as the 5 and TCU. So Carl and I were kind of on the same page. Crazy Browns fan says LSU's not covering that. LSU's not covering that, buddy. So
what?
I'm sorry, LSU's not covering it. You heard it here. Crazy Browns fan. And listen, as a Crazy Browns fan, I kind of respect the guy. I respect him. So
they put up 120 points in the last 3 weeks before that tough game against Arkansas last week.
I love it.
No offense.
I love it. Crazy Browns guy, man. You're my new friend. Anybody that goes against Fish is my new friend. No offense, I guess. And listen, Brian Kelly. If Brian Kelly wins a championship at LSU in his first year, I think as Notre Dame fans, we're absolutely going to go nuts, right? I mean, I just can't. I won't be able to handle that.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, that's going to do it for us here at Grandstand Bettors for 2 goals, 1 puck. Big thank you to all of you who joined us today. As always, Fish, thanks for contributing to our telecast. Do you have anything else before we sign off?
No, nothing comes to mind.
All right. Well, then, on that positive note, that's going to bring us to the end of 2 goals, 1 pucks for Tuesday, November 15th. Listen, there's only one thing left for us to do, and that is to roll the credits.